What's happening, everybody? It's Sean with Reactions to the Classics, and today we got a reaction to Dean Martin's Top 10 Songs, brought to us by our friend and patron Cheryl, who's bringing it on behalf of her late husband Doug, who was a patron of ours for a long, long time and just a fantastic guy. So thank you to Cheryl for bringing this one. Thank you to all our patrons who make this thing go. If you'd like to support us in any way, check out that Patreon link below, or the patron link on the end screen. Cheryl says, I'd like to dedicate this list to my late husband Doug, who loved the Rat Pack. This will finish all three Rat Pack members' top 10 lists. I've got Frank Sinatra up, as well as some Sinatra albums that Doug brought that made me become a huge fan of Sinatra, and also a Sammy Davis top 10 that's fantastic. Cheryl says this was a tough list to make, and a lot of tears fell making this list. All right, some background on the man himself, Dean Martin. He was an American singer, actor, and comedian, one of the most popular entertainers of the mid-20th century. He was nicknamed the King of Cool. He gained his career breakthrough together with comedian Jerry Lewis, billed as Martin and Lewis in 1946. They performed in nightclubs and later had numerous appearances on radio and television and in films. Following a difficult ending of the partnership in 1956, Dean pursued a solo career as a performer and actor. He established himself as a singer, recording numerous contemporary songs as well as standards from the Great American Songbook. He became one of the most popular acts in Las Vegas and was known for his friendship with fellow artists Frank Sinatra and Sammy Davis Jr., as we talked about earlier, who together with several others eventually formed the Rat Pack. These are the three that everybody knows. Starting in 1965, he was the host of the television variety show The Dean Martin Show, which centered on his singing and comedic talents and was characterized by his relaxed, easygoing demeanor. From 1974 to 1984, he was roast master on the popular Dean Martin Celebrity Roast, which drew celebrities, comedians, and politicians. That's how I first learned of Dean Martin. I didn't know this thing was on through 84. I mean, is that right? I remember it in maybe 77, 78. I was born in 71 when I was a real little kid. Throughout his career, he performed in concert stages, nightclubs, audio recordings, and appeared in 85 film and television productions and sold 12 million records in the U.S. alone, over 50 million worldwide. He was just a cool guy, and I listened to this podcast that talked about it. It's really about him and Sammy, but it was just fantastic. It was actually in a little bit about Frank. It's actually after doing the Sammy top 10 for Doug that made me go seek that out. But if you haven't been with us before, the music won't be in the video because it'll get blocked, but it'll be a Vimeo link below. So check it out with me. Let's start this thing off with, you see it below, Little Old Wine Drinker Me. It's a country pop song written in the 60s by Hank Mills and Dick Jennings. The title parodied what was then a well-known catchphrase in TV commercials for an Italian-Swiss colony wine company, the Little Old Winemaker Me. The song's about a man trying to drink away his romantic troubles. It was first released by Charlie Walker in 1966. It became a hit when it was released by Robert Mitchum. I didn't know Robert made music in early 1967, and by Dean later that year. Dean's version spent 6 weeks on the Billboard Hot 100, peaking at number 38, number 32 in Canada. Remember, 1967, I mean, this type of music had fallen out, but don't worry, Dean's going to do something about that eventually. We'll get to that on this list, but the Little Winemaker, the song's about a man trying to drink away his romantic troubles. Dean was very famous for being an alcoholic and drunk on stage, but that's actually not true. Dean actually wasn't that way when you study him. He usually went home and didn't drink, but he stepped into that role because people liked it, right? He became the funny drunk guy on stage. So just a little interesting tidbit for you. All right, I'm in the lyrics up as always. Thanks again, Cheryl. This is a really good song. I thought they might change up the arrangement, but they kept the country arrangement. Dean pulled it off flawlessly. I mean, his heart's been broken. Tried to run from her, but broken heart's still the same in Chicago, right? You can't run away from that heartache. So a good way to start this list. Next up, we got You're Nobody Till Somebody Loves You, a single from 1960 and 1964. Written by Russ Morgan, Larry Stock, and James Cavanaugh, and published in 1944. His first recorded by Morgan was a hit from him in 1946, reaching number 14 on the charts. The best-known version was Dean's, which was released in 1960 and reissued in 1964. He recorded for Capitol Records in 60 and Reprise Records in 64. The 64 version spent 9 weeks on the Billboard Hot 100, peaking at 25 in the U.S., 28 in Canada. There's only a couple of these songs, a few of these songs, maybe there's 3 of these songs that I think I know, but I think when I hear them, I might know them. This is one I might know. All right, I knew that song. I thought I did, and the second it came on, Dean's great. He's got that voice. He can carry this thing. You got to really be able to bring it on these classic songs. He can definitely do that. Nelson Riddle Orchestra is on this. They were with Sinatra. But I watch or I read along with the lyrics on genius.com. I found them to be the best lyrics by far. But so they had a picture, that was the album cover up there. And the album cover, I got to show you this. I don't usually ever do this, but I got to show you this. I mean, on the cover of this album, this man looks like almost a spitting image, a little bit of Sylvester Stallone. That's neither here nor there for this. I just was like, wow, it's Sly and Dean Martin combined. All right, after that detour, let's get to number 8. We got Go, Go, Go. There's not a fourth go on there, even though Spotify has it that way if you go listen to it on Spotify. It's a single in 1951 written by Mac David and Jerry Livingston and popularized by Dean. He's the one known for it all the way back in 1951. All right, Go, Go, Go. Not the fourth go that's down here. A fun song. It's 1951. It just has that 1951 feeling to it, right? The energy, the horns, the arrangement, just a different time and place. I love listening to songs like this. I didn't when I was younger. I do now. It just kind of takes you to a different time. Despite how I look, I was not alive in 1951. But yeah, man, just a fun one. Next up at number 7, we got Baby It's Cold Outside. On several different things. His is one of the most famous versions. It was originally written by Frank Loesser in 1944. A lot of people say most famously by Dean Martin and Marilyn Maxwell in 1959. In the late 2010s, so in the last, I would say it's 2024, probably in the last 7 or 8 years, maybe, the track has faced backlash over its forceful nature towards the female protagonist, largely instigated by an American radio station banning the song in support of the Me Too movement. Look, I'm not going to get into all that, but I'll say this. We had a movement, and I don't think it's quite as bad now in the cancel culture, but to go back and retrospectively judge things, culture was how it was, man. You can't go back and just cancel everything. I mean, you can do that if you want to, and you can skip this track if you want to, but it's a great track, and I've never heard Dean's version. What a great performance of this song. This song is really hard to sing because the call and response is so rapid fire for so long throughout the entire song. So fantastic job. And Dean pulls it off so well. Now we go to the number 6 track, Sway, from the Hey Brother, Pour the Wine, a single in 1954. It was originally written by Mexican composer Luis Demetrio as Queen Sarah. You know, I'm not good at Spanish. I don't have to tell you that now, right? And recorded by Pablo Beltran Ruiz a year prior to Dean's recording. It's become a popular jazz standard since its release. The lyrics were written by Norman Gimbel, and Martin recorded the song with the Dick Stable Orchestra. Norman Gimbel took the song, removed the somewhat melancholy Spanish lyrics about a man wondering if he shall ever love again, and wrote brand new English lyrics about a man praising his dancing partner's ability to affect his heart with how she sways when they dance. This new song titled Sway. So that's why it kind of is, it's a remake, it's a reimagining of another song, right? So the arrangement's sort of similar, but it's become a standard in the pop repertoire. The first version to achieve considerable success in the U.S. was recorded by Dean with the Dick Stable Orchestra in 1954, reached 15 in the Billboard charts and 6 in the UK. All right, Sway. What an awesome song, man. The flamenco guitar in there, Dean pulls this off so well. And the backing orchestration and vocals in there, just really, really well done, man. Dean can pull off just about anything because, like Sinatra, you feel his confidence through the audio, right? You can just picture it, man. Sammy had confidence too, but in a little different way. This is just a great example of his diversity. I'm glad that Cheryl brought it because I would have had no idea he would do something like this. All right, now we're to the top 5 already. Mambo Italiano, a single in 1955. Written by Bob Merrill in 1954 for American singer Rosemary Clooney. Yes, George Clooney's mom. The song became a hit for Clooney, reaching the top 10 on charts in the US and France and number 1 in the UK. It's shown enduring popularity with several cover versions and appearances in numerous films. The song provides an obvious parody of genuine mambo music, cashing in on the 1954 mambo craze in New York. Who knew? While at the same time allowing Miller to set up a vehicle for Clooney's vocal talents. It's also a late example of an American novelty song in a tradition started during World War II by the Italian-American jazz singer Louis Prima, in which nonsense lyrics with an Italian-American sound are used in such a way as to present a stereotyped caricature of Italian-American people who had been classed with enemy alien status and discouraged from speaking. We did a lot of horrible stuff in this country this country, the one I live in the United States. I always hear people talk about, let's go back to the good old days. What exactly were the good old days? That's a whole nother discussion. The nonsense lyrics were originally couched in English, mixed together with a comic jumble of Italian, Spanish, Neapolitan, and gibberish words. It was successfully covered in 1955 by Dean Martin. So I haven't looked at the lyrics, but I'm curious to now. Let's get it. I mean, not a lot of made up lyrics in there, but there's some interesting combinations of things. But you, once again, just feel the charisma, right? You can feel the charisma and personality of Dean coming out of this without overtaking it, not in some sort of, some people try to be, they overdo it. You just feel like it's natural with him. I mean, just a fun song. At number 4, we got Valir by Domenico Mataguno and Franco Migliacci. I butchered that probably. It's an Italian ballad originally recorded by Domenico. It's been covered in many languages, and this Dean Martin cover was very popular in the U.S. It first appeared on his 1958 album, This Is Dean Martin. In the song, the protagonist describes the feeling of flying he has when he's with his lover. Volare. Fantastically, perfectly suited to Dean's voice and Dean's personality. A lot of it's obviously in Italian in the chorus when he gets to it. The English transliteration roughly, and I flew happily higher than the sun and even more on while the world slowly disappeared far away down there. Soft music played only for me. The love, the love you feel like I'm flying high. That's where we get that kind of a saying from, but great choice for number 4. Number 3, we got Hey Brother, Pour the Wine from the album of the same name in 1964. The album is a 1964 compilation album by Capitol Records released after Dean moved to Reprise Records. It collects several non-LP singles and album tracks recorded by Dean while with Capitol, because that's what they did, man. They released it real quick, before you could go to the other company, and they would release a retrospective. And I mean, I just told you that about the album because it's a comp album, right? Compilation album, so it has a lot of great songs on it. But it's interesting, they liked this song so well that they named the album this. It kind of tells you how highly they thought of it. I don't think I know this song. I was singing along with, I could have sang on that song, man. I could get the Hey Brother, Pour the Wine. Just a fun song, another fun song. These songs are so diverse, honestly. Like Dean has this range. I'm talking about range with his voice, but this range that he can step into these different styles like flawlessly. It doesn't feel like he's trying to do this. It feels like he was meant to do this. Now at number 2, we get to a song that I definitely know. That's Amore. Single all the way back in 1953, written in 1953 by Harry Warren and lyricist Jack Brooks, as it became a signature song for Dean Martin. Amore means love in Italian. It was played in the 1954 film Rear Window, of course, a Hitchcock film, the 1987 film Moonstruck, the 1995 film Grumpy Old Men, the 1999 film Stuart Little, and the 2024 film The Garfield Movie. But it first appeared in the soundtrack of the Martin and Lewis comedy film The Caddy, released by Paramount Pictures in August of 1953. In that, Jerry Lewis commissioned Warren and Brooks to write songs for Martin to sing in the movie. According to Lewis, he personally paid them $30,000, which seems like an insane amount of money in 1953, secretly in the hope that one would be a hit for Martin. In the film, the song is performed mainly by Martin, with Lewis joining in, and then the other characters in the scene follow. It received a nomination for an Academy Award for Best Original Song of that year and went to number 2 in the U.S. I mean, not much to say about it. I mean, stone cold classic. Dean, obviously being attacked, like, can just pull this song off with utmost brilliance, really. It's just a fantastic song. And now we get to number 1, Everybody Loves Somebody Sometimes, off the album of the same name in 1964. And since I've done the research for this, I've been looking forward to hearing the song. I'm like, do I know this song? I don't think I do, but maybe I do. Got a little bit of a decent amount of research on this song. Written in 1947 by Irving Taylor and pianist Ken Wayne, and made famous by Dean, who recorded and released his version in 1964, with an earlier version being recorded by Frank Sinatra all the way back in 1948, so 16 years earlier. By 1964, the song had already been recorded by several artists. First recorded by Peggy Lee in 1947. Sinatra did his 2 weeks later. Like, that's what we did back then, man. We're all just fighting and recording this song. Though none of the recordings were a success. So Ken Wayne, one of the guys that wrote it, right? One of the 2 guys that wrote it, was playing piano for Dean Martin on his Dream with Dean LP sessions. And with an hour or so of studio time left and one short song, Wayne suggested that Martin take a run at this tune, like he was looking for songs, right? Dean was agreeable, and the small combo of piano, guitar, drums, and bass performed a relatively quiet, laid-back version of this song. Coincidentally, Martin had sung it almost 20 years earlier on Bob Hope's radio show in 1948, and also on Martin and Lewis's NBC radio program at about the same time. Almost immediately, Martin re-recorded the song for his next album, this time with a full orchestra and chorus. His label, Reprise Records, was so enthusiastic about the hit potential of this version, they titled the LP the same name to capitalize on it. Here's a great story to this. I alluded to this at the start of this reaction. Although still a major recording artist, Dean Martin had not had a top 40 hit since 1958. With the British invasion ruling the U.S. charts, few had hopes that an Italian-American crooner who had been singing mainly standards for almost 20 years would sway many teenagers. Martin resented rock and roll, and his attitude created conflict at home with his 12-year-old son, Dean Paul Martin, who, like many young people at the time, worshiped pop groups like the Beatles. Sinatra also hated pop music for a period of time as well. He told his son, "I'm going to kick your pallies off the chart." And on August 15, 1964, he did just that. This song knocked the Beatles' A Hard Day's Night off the #1 slot on Billboard, going straight to the top of both the Billboard Hot 100 and the Pop Standard Singles Chart. Dean talking a little noise and then backing it up, boys and girls. It ultimately replaced That's Amore as Martin's signature song, and he sang it as the theme of his weekly television variety show from 1965 to 1974. It's become so identified with Martin that later versions are always compared to his take. Here's something else that's crazy. Everybody Loves Somebody Sometime appears on Martin's grave marker in Los Angeles, and it was inducted into the Grammy Hall of Fame in 1999. #1. Let's go. All right, I did not know that song. It's got a great sound to it, a familiar sound to it, just because of the way the arrangement is, but fantastic song, great sentiment, well written. I know he didn't write any of these songs, but well written. But it's crazy though. If you think about this knocking A Hard Day's Night off #1, they're so polar opposite, but that's the beauty of music, right? It's just incredibly well done. Great pick for #1. It's got 158 million streams on Spotify as well, which is quite impressive for a song this old. Now we're going to get to my favorite tracks. And, you know, this is, I mentioned this a lot of times, and I always had this with Doug's top 10s, and Cheryl's done a fantastic job stepping in here, because when you pick the top 10 from iconic artists like this, like, they're all going to be great songs. And so it's really kind of dumb in a way for me to pick favorite tracks, but this is what I do on these. And I mean, there's going to be 8 of them. Not that I don't like the other 2 songs. I guess I just felt like I had to eliminate a few. Honorable mentions are Nobody Till Somebody Loves You, Baby It's Cold Outside, Sway, Mambo Italiano, and Valir. My faves will be song number 10, Little Old Wine Drinker Me. I don't know if it's just a country vibe and not expecting it out of Dean. And then these last 2 songs, That's Amore and Everybody Loves Somebody Sometimes. Well, let me know what your favorite tracks are from this list, and just what your favorite tracks are from Dean that maybe Cheryl wasn't able to include because you can only pick 10, and it's almost impossible with an artist like this. Kudos to Cheryl. So appreciate her putting this together. Just did a great job. And rest in peace to Doug. Super miss him, but tons of his lists are up on this channel. Just go look for Sammy, Frank, and there's just a ton of them up here. Thank you guys for joining me. And until next time, guys, I will see you.